everyone, welcome back to my vlog. I'm Robin, or Hobbit's Reading List, and we are going to do a 2-week vlog, partially because my TBR will be going up next Tuesday, or this upcoming Tuesday, I guess, but also for you it would be last Tuesday. But also it is a Thursday, so I'm starting the vlog late again. So we're just giving myself some breathing room. But otherwise it's a pretty normal 2 weeks. So let's just jump right into things. As I said, I am starting this vlog a little bit late. Not any particular reason. My mood has just been down since, getting back from the retreat. I do wonder if it was like a combination of like sort of like post-retreat blues, and then like work has been really difficult. Yeah, I have been reading, but I didn't feel like I was in a mood where I could start the vlog until today. But it all works out. I do want to go in order. So Monday night, I was like, again, not feeling the best. And I just wanted something sort of easy. And so I didn't want to pick up Wolf Hall, but I still wanted to read. And it was like 8 p.m. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to like pick up one of the Kindle books that I got for free last year in June. I just read one of those. And so I picked Once Upon a Dance Club Wish. And it is the first book in the Enchanted Forest series, which I think has like 2 or 3 books in it. And essentially this like series takes place in the Enchanted Forest, which is a like alternate universe, and it's all men, but they are shifters, and they need, what are they called? Outer world men to mate with. And so it's really interesting. But the guy whose name I'm forgetting, okay, so the shifter in the Enchanted Forest main character, his name is Holden, and he is a turtle shifter, which was fascinating. There is no blurb. It started with the N. Was it Nelson? I don't know. The outer worlder human man whose name started with the N. I will put it on the screen. His life is just not going well. And he gets this like card from this guy dressed as a wizard outside a dance club, and he has some situations happen, and as he's leaving, he makes a wish while holding the card, saying that I wish I could meet someone who loves me as much as I love them, or something to that effect. And he is instantly transported to the Enchanted Forest, where he meets Holden. There's an attraction, and they sort of figure out, like, is the human gonna stay? Are they going to be together? What does that look like? And so it was really interesting. It was only like, I want to say like 97 pages. It was a very quick read. And it's so interesting. I actually really enjoyed it. I normally am kind of wary about like fated mates or like MPreg, because I feel like the relationship just develops too quickly, and like there was a little bit of that, but I didn't mind it because I knew it was short, and for as short as the book was, I felt like the relationship progression made some sense. It didn't, like, it was quick. But I'm like, okay, like there was some development there. I would have liked more, but if there was more, it would have been a fully fledged novel, which I think would have been really interesting. So yeah, there's that. But for what it was, I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, honestly. I would not be opposed to reading the next book in the series if I can, get a Kindle deal on it again. So, but I'm not like in a rush or anything. So there's that. And then the next day, I did actually read Wolf Hall, but I think I only read like 10 pages or something. because I was very busy that day, and then my mood sort of tanked, and the power went out on my like one break, and so I had to like scramble and like get myself together to go to Chris's work so that I could work there because I need internet. So so yeah, so it was Tuesday was just a lot. I didn't read much of Wolf Hall. And then but I did Tuesday start listening to The Enchanted April as my audiobook. And this follows 4 women who see this advertisement to rent out a castle in Italy for the entire month of April. I want to say it's set in like the 50s. Yeah. Or the 20s. It's after a world war. There, I know that because there's mention of one of the characters being assumed to be like a war widow, and she's fairly young, but I wonder if it says like what year. Let me see. Okay, well, it was published in 1922, so probably World War One then. But these 4 women, they're strangers, but they all like rent out this castle, and it's about what that month means to them and how it makes them examine their lives back in England, and presumably about like found family, sisterhood, that sort of stuff. So I'm very interested in it. I listened to like 2 chapters on Tuesday and then maybe like 3 yesterday. So I still have, quite a bit to go, but I'm enjoying it. The narrator is good. So yeah, I think that's about it. That's really all I have. I am planning to read more of Wolf Hall today. I will get Wolf Hall done in this vlog, ideally by the end of this week, but it's taking me a minute, so definitely by the end of the vlog. But Stephanie's about to be here soon. We're gonna hang out today because I actually have a very like light work day. I don't have any meetings until hours from now, so I'm like, yay, I can like hang out and be chill. So I'm going to do that, and I will check in when I've read some more. I think I last filmed on like Thursday morning, so I ended up going out with Stephanie for most of the day because I actually had like a day off, and we just got lunch and then like went shopping a little bit, and we went to Starbucks where I read more of Wolf Hall. Still not done. That was the last time I read Wolf Hall. I did figure out why I've been kind of avoiding it, though. I've mentioned before in previous vlogs about Wolf Hall that I went through like an Anne Boleyn like hyperfixation when I was in high school, and once I remembered this past weekend that like when I was reading a bunch of like Anne Boleyn biographies and stuff like that, when I got to the point where I knew what the timeline was of like when they started flirting, and then when, all the things happened that allowed Henry to marry Anne, and then the decline of their relationship, and then her execution, like stuff like that. Like once I knew what the timeline was, I did start like, not avoiding, but like my desire to continue reading a book once it got to the point where Anne was queen, like declined, because I knew that was like the beginning of the end. Like, when she became queen, it was just a slippery slope until she was executed. And that's where I am in Wolf Hall. I am at the part where she is going to become queen. like almost immediately once I start this chapter. So that was because I was kind of getting frustrated with myself of like, why am I avoiding reading Wolf Hall? And it's because of that. So I will try to read more of it today. We will see. Other than that, I've continued listening to the Enchanted April. It's been kind of like, it just hasn't been entertaining. Like, they're all at the castle, and the original two, Lottie and Rose, were like really trying to be friendly with the other two that they recruited, Caroline and Mrs. Fisher. Mrs. Fisher is like a judgmental old woman, and I'm kind of over her because Lottie is not as like, doesn't abide by like the rules of etiquette maybe as much as she should. And Mrs. Fisher just like, from their first interaction is like, well, you're not worth like the time of day because you don't abide by all the rules of etiquette. So like Mrs. Fisher's perspective is like kind of annoying. But the others are getting along and, you know, feeling more relaxed. And like, and it's nice to read, but it's also just like there's not a lot happening. Like at this point, I'm 75% through, and it's just about them like being more comfortable. Like that's kind of it. So, and like there's been some like bonding, but like not as much as I would want. So there is that. So it's just kind of like, oh, all right, well, this is very slice of life, but considering it's not like their daily life, I would have expected like more. I would have expected more depth, I think. Oh well. And then the only other thing that I read last night when I realized I wasn't, you know, going to be reading Wolf Hall, just because I quite frankly have had a very rough weekend. I have had a pretty rough week and not really feeling like doing much of anything. And yeah, I'm kind of just like not feeling the best. So yesterday I decided I wasn't reading Wolf Hall because I was not in the mood for it. I don't honestly know if I'm in the mood for it today, but I do want to finish it. So we'll see. But I started reading Not Strictly Ballroom last night, which is a romance that I got on like a Kindle deal last June. And it's about this guy named Darcy, who is a competitive ballroom dancer, and there's a chance he could go to nationals, but then in the like, I'm assuming regionals, him and his partner get second, but she reveals that she's not able to compete at nationals because she like got her dream job and she's leaving in like the next week, and nationals is like months down the line or something. And so Darcy's really upset because he'd been working towards nationals was his dream. And he has a best friend named Nick, I think. Nick or Nate? I think it's Nick. Who also dances, but is not necessarily to the level of Darcy, but they're best friends. And the plot will be that, you know, Darcy and Nick end up dancing together, which, like, there's not really same-sex dance couples. And so that's kind of, like, a big thing. But also, like, they're gonna end up getting together. So it seems very cute. It is not as quick as I thought it was going to be. I thought most of my Kindle books were like novellas. So I read like 11% last night because I was reading on my Kindle. So, but that was, you know, that was a nice, like, lighthearted thing to read. So that's about it. But I'm going to try to get my energy up to finish filming my TBR because I started it yesterday and didn't finish it. And just try to be better. Good morning. It is not even 6:30 in the morning, but I got ready for work fairly quickly, so I have time to film before I go. I am still not done with Wolf Hall. That's probably the big thing. And I did read some. Let me see. I want to say I read like 50 pages. No, it had to have been more. Maybe like 60. I finished a chapter, which the chapters are fairly long, so that is something. But Elizabeth has been born, which was Anne's only surviving child. And yes, it's Queen Elizabeth the First. If you didn't know that Anne Boleyn was her mom. But the decline is starting. Which, well, as I mentioned, is a reason why I'm kind of avoiding it. But I'm gonna have to just read it because I can't keep reading the same book for like a month. I know I spent a month reading Les Mis, but that was 1,200 pages, so that made a little bit more sense. So I will try to really push, but I also have other things going on. So it's a little bit hard. I'm trying to get it done because it's not bad. I want to be very clear. It's not bad. It's not poorly written. It's actually very well written, very well researched. It's just my own thing about not wanting to see a character that I care about, like, start to, be on the outs. I feel like it's gonna be awkward, to say the least. But Ellis has assured me that, like, while the decline starts, it doesn't quite, like, it doesn't get to, like, the really, like, rough parts yet. That's in the second book. So I'm trying to remember that. But there's just, like, there's a part of my brain that's like, nope, that's it. I don't need to read anymore. So, yeah, that's my own weird thing about Anne Boleyn. I think if I didn't have this, like, hyperfixation, then I would have already finished the book. But if anyone else has hyperfixations about historical figures, please let me know if you go through the same thing. Like, once you know what the timeline is, like, please let me know. I'm just curious if anyone else experiences this, like, kind of, like, hyperfixation, but then avoidance. I also did start reading Body Kindness, which is on my May TBR, because my spinning wheel told me to journal, and I wasn't in the mood to journal, so I'm like, well, I will read Body Kindness because I need to, because I have not been kind to my body lately in my thoughts. So that's not great. But I pretty much just read the introduction talking about, like, why body kindness is important. So, and then I went and got a pedicure yesterday, and I didn't want to bring a heavy book, so I brought my Kindle with me. So I read about 18% of Not Strictly Ballroom. And I was right, the best friend's name is Nick. But so I'm at like 26, no, math. I'm at like 29%. And at around the 25% mark, they had sort of admitted to both having feelings that were more than friendly, more than best friendly, because they were best friends. And they have kissed. And while I don't have an issue with that, I would prefer a little bit of a slower burn. But I also think I can see what the author is doing, because Darcy was presumed to be straight. He admits that he had never really had, like, attraction or connection to someone except for Nick, and so it's seeming more like demisexual. But they haven't used that word. And so I think what the author is doing is like, all right, well, we've confronted that, and now we're going to confront the ballroom thing where they are going to compete dancing together as a same-sex couple, even though, like, it's not against the rules, but it's also not something that has been done. So the plot's going to focus on that, as well as Darcy getting more comfortable with what his sexuality is probably. I assume that's where it's going to go. So, and if I'm right, then I don't necessarily mind that it wasn't a slower burn. So, plus I think it makes sense as like friends to lovers. It could have been slower, but I don't necessarily have an issue with it because they already have such an established relationship. Although, yeah. So, yeah. That is what I've read the past couple days. I've kind of had some like very light days at work. Like Wednesday was pretty light. Yesterday I didn't have work at all. And then today is like decently light. I get off of work early. I've been trying to just use that time to get in sort of like a better mindset, and reading has been helpful with that, but it hasn't been my main focus the past couple days. I will try to focus on it today, but also Chris is getting out of work a little bit early today too. So, and then we have tomorrow off, so we're also going to spend time together. So we will see. We'll see what happens. I would like to finish Wolf Hall in this vlog, but if we don't, that is okay. So, I've still not finished Wolf Hall. Let's just get that out there. I haven't read it since Thursday. I'm really frustrated with myself, but I just can't. Like, there's a part of my brain that's like, okay, I need to read it. And then another part of my brain is like, but it's not the right time. Like, last night, the PWHL Boston game was on. It's playoffs, so I was watching that. And I'm like, okay, I'll finish watching the game, I'll eat dinner, and then I'll read Wolf Hall. But I like picked it up and I started reading. I'm like, I can't focus on this. And I don't know why. Like, there's something about my brain of like, oh, well, Chris is watching basketball, so there's like too much going on, I can't focus. Which like is true, but it also feels like finding excuses. And I want to be clear. I'm not avoiding this book because I'm not enjoying it. I am. It's very well written. It's very well researched. I have nothing but good things to say. I know that doesn't seem believable. I would like to finish it today. I have less than 150 pages left, which in any other book would not be a big deal. I'm like, great, I can knock that out in like 3 hours. However, because this book is so well researched, it does sometimes feel like I'm reading nonfiction because I'm learning a lot. And so I'm reading slower than I normally would. So I don't know. I don't know how long it will take me. I will try. I'm trying to decide, because I have a very busy day at work. I will not have time to read at work. I know that for a fact. And then I'm probably picking up Chris from our friend's house afterwards because he's going over to watch NASCAR. Which, okay. In lieu of other sports being on, he'll go watch racing. But I don't know if I'll even be there for long. So I don't know. I'll bring Wolf Hall with me to work just in case. I don't think I'll have time to read it, either at work or at our friend's house, but I will read it tonight. I will sequester myself and read it. But, so there's that. I addressed that. I did finish listening to the Enchanted April, and man, it just was not entertaining at all. Like, it almost felt like too much slice of life, but I don't know, the dynamics like didn't make sense like for the length of the book, because they were supposed to be at this castle for all of April, right? But the older woman, Mrs. Fisher, like really didn't like Lottie, felt like she might be crazy. And then like there were so many time jumps, and then all of a sudden at the end, like Mrs. Fisher's like, oh, actually no, I like Lottie. It's like, well, but we hardly saw any of that. Like, yeah, we saw some, but like the character development, it didn't, we did not get to see a month there. We saw like the first week, and then like bits and pieces of the rest of the weeks, but not enough to make up for the whole month, which means that it wasn't enough to make up for, to explain the story development that we ended with. So that really bothered me. And then like the writing was not very engaging. I zoned out a lot while listening to it. So yeah, I gave it 2 stars. Like it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. I understand why it was a romance. It wasn't why I wanted it to be romance. Because I wanted it to just be these 4 women in this castle and like getting to know each other. And like that lasted a week before one of them invited their husband, and then someone else invited their husband. So I was like, okay. So yeah. That's it, 2 stars. And then on my way home on Friday, I started listening to The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. Now, I had debated making a separate video for this because I do have like a Stephen King series that I'm behind on. I have 2 videos I need to edit for it. But I did consider making a separate video. However, it's such a short book that it would have just been like 2 clips. It would have been this one and then the one when I finished it. Buddy! He knocked a picture down. That's fine. It's not like glass or anything. Do you really like Dean Martin? Because I have Dean Martin. Okay, anyway. So, The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon is about this 9-year-old girl who goes hiking with her recently divorced mother and her brother. Well, the girl's brother. Trisha. Her name is Trisha. And the mom and Trisha's brother are like constantly fighting because her brother, I think his name is Pete, is like 14. He's not happy about how his life has changed after the divorce. And so they're constantly fighting, including while they're hiking. And they don't hear her when she says that she wants to stop to get water. And she gets frustrated and she's like, all right, fine, I'm going to the bathroom. They still don't hear her. And she ends up like going off of the trail to go to the bathroom and getting lost. And then she gets more lost. She manages, at the point where I am now, she manages to get 9 miles away from the trail of like where her mother last remembers seeing her. Now, I remember my dad listening to the audio tapes of this when I was like 9 or 10. I think I had to be like 9. Because my dad and I used to take a lot of road trips when I was younger. And he has always listened to audiobooks. He still listens to like Audible and everything when my siblings in the car when he's taking them to school. But I remember listening to this. I, however, remember it with a male narrator, which is interesting because that's not possible. Like this book came out in like 98, I believe, and then the audio book version came out in 1999. I cannot find another version of this. There is only the 1999 version, and it is narrated by Anne Heche. So I'm like, why do I remember a male narrator? I must be like conflating the audiobooks that my dad listened to, and like I know that we listened to The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, but then I guess maybe he had to have listened to another like Stephen King book that had a male narrator, and that's what I'm remembering, but I put it in Tom. I don't know. So I really debated whether or not I was actually going to listen to the audiobook, because there's not, I didn't think it would bring up nostalgia, and like it doesn't really, because it doesn't match with what's in my head. But I am enjoying it. I'm a third of the way through, I believe. I'm at 35%. And Trisha has, like I said, has managed to get like 9 miles away from where she was last seen. She's going through a rough time. And while I don't believe that she's 9, because I don't think Stephen King can write a 9-year-old. Not at least from their perspective. I think that he can write children from an adult perspective. But being in the child's perspective, I don't think he can do. Because it's reminding me a lot of when I read It, and those kids were 13? They were a little bit older. I want to say they were like 13. So it's sort of reminding me of that, of like, when I picture Trisha, I don't picture a 9-year-old, I picture like a 13-year-old. In fact, I picture myself at 13. Because a lot of the cover art is of, you know, a girl in like a Boston cap with like long brown hair. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I have a picture of me like that. But I'm really enjoying it. Trisha, I don't know what's gonna happen. She's really banged up. Like, she's fallen down some and into like a wasp nest, which listening to a character going through like bodily harm while I'm driving is like making me like wince and flinch. I'm like, oh, this isn't good while I'm driving. So there's that. And then last night I just read like 12% of Not Strictly Ballroom, and I'm still enjoying it. I like the development of the relationship. Like, yes, they have admitted that they have feelings, but Darcy doesn't really have any experience with anyone physically, and so they're very much taking that aspect slow, which I appreciate. And, you know, they are working on building up like a dance routine together. So I'm having a good time with that. I think it's a nice like lighter book to pivot to when I don't feel like I can focus on Wolf Hall, which is exactly what I did last night. So I'm gonna go because I've been talking a lot and I have to go to work. But I will check in again tonight or tomorrow morning and let you know how the Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon sort of wraps up, because I will probably finish it today. So I have good news. I finished 2 more books. I have some not so good news in that neither of them were Wolf Hall. So we're just gonna keep reading Wolf Hall next week. Theoretically, should finish it. And that's it. So the books that I did finish. I ended up, let me see, when did I recorded Sunday morning. Yeah. I was gonna wear my Boston hat. I have a Red Sox hat, which in The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, she is wearing a Red Sox hat that is signed by Tom Gordon. But I think it's downstairs and I just can't be bothered. But I am wearing a Rockport shirt, which is a town near Boston, so but I'll start there. So Sunday when I went to work, and then when I came home, I listened to The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, and I was really invested. Like, I kind of, well, no, that's I guess a spoiler. I thought I knew how it would end, and while I was correct, I did have moments where I'm like, oh, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this isn't where this is going. But I thought it was really well done. I finished it yesterday morning. I had like 40 minutes left. So I'm like, oh, I'll just go ahead and finish it. There were parts that definitely made me like flinch and wince still, but And there were definitely creepy moments because it is Stephen King, and he knows how to build an environment to where you're just sort of like side-eyeing a lot of things. But I think it was interesting because like it is a horror novel, but it's a very real horror, and like even the like supernatural elements can be real within that universe, or they can be a side effect of what Trisha was going through, and like sort of like hallucinations and stuff like that. So I just thought that was like, it was really, really interesting. I liked the ending. I do feel like, and this is such a interesting complaint, just because Stephen King tends to be verbose, tends to drag out endings sometimes. And I feel like he didn't do that this time. In fact, I felt like he could have written just a little bit more at the end. Just for, and that's mainly my own desire for like certain things that like were themes in the book to be like wrapped up a little bit neater. But it's okay if there's some ambiguity. Like I'm wanting like sort of a clear-cut resolution like I get in like a lot of like the other books that I read, like especially like romance. And I don't need that for this, although I would have liked it. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really good. And I gave it 5 stars. Yeah, I thought it was awesome. So other than that, silly me, I mentioned that I was going to bring Wolf Hall, and then I completely forgot to grab it when I went to work on Sunday, and I ended up having time. What I thought was going to be a jam-packed day, I had like an hour and a half of free time, and I looked, I'm like, oh, maybe I can get Wolf Hall from the library as like an ebook and just like read that way. Nope. It wasn't available. I would have had to, put a hold on it. So instead, I just continued reading Not Strictly Ballroom and got through a good chunk of that. I read a little bit more that night when I got home, and then I finished it yesterday as well. I actually did like a good amount of reading yesterday. So I think I had mentioned like understanding why they had admitted to their feelings like a quarter of the way through. It still was a little bit of slow burn, and what I really appreciated is that the relationship development, even though they're best friends, so there's already like very deep feelings that are like bordering on, love, like romantic love. But there were still also like barriers to progressing their relationship, namely the fact that neither of them lived alone. They both lived with their families, and so that definitely hampered their ability to be alone together and like deepen their relationship physically. And so in a lot of scenes, it's like they're still continuing to be best friends, obviously, just like with more flirting, but it took them a while to be able to be more physical with one another. So I did really appreciate that. I also appreciated some like family drama that wasn't necessarily related to them being gay. Like there was other family drama, which I thought was handled really well and really like realistically. Like honestly, I actually really enjoyed it. I think just a little bit, my main complaint is just like the pacing, or at least how time jumps were written. There were times where it'd be like they were practicing dancing and they did that for a couple weeks, and like that was sort of like the summary of those couple weeks, and that's fine, but it was something in the language where I'm like, oh, you know what? No, it's that it was summarizing like conversations. Instead of letting us see the conversations, they would like have dialogue, and then it would summarize the rest of the conversation and then do like a scene change or like resume dialogue. So it's just like I understand it, but the way that it happened, it was kind of was a little weird for me. I'm like, oh, like, I feel like you could have just kept writing dialogue. Or just not put that, or like, it could have been done differently. Like, the way that it was done was very jarring. Or even if it had been like, the person was reflecting on the conversation and that's how it was summarized, instead of, you know, going through every line. But it was like in the present tense. So yeah, it was just like, it was just a little odd to me. But I did like, there were a lot of things I liked. There were other things, mainly that dialogue thing, but like also just, there were some plot points of like, oh, this was resolved like really easily. Like, oh, that's a huge coincidence. Which, like, that's fine. So I did enjoy it for the most part, and so I gave it 3.5 stars. And yeah, that's about what I read. Leave me a comment. Let me know if there are any books that like you're enjoying but you're kind of avoiding a little bit and like prolonging the experience, because I want to be sure I'm not the only person who does this. Even though, like, again, I'm really enjoying Wolf Hall. I have to be like in the right like frame of mind to continue reading it, I think, just because things are going to get tense. And I know that. But yeah, leave me a comment if you have any similar experiences with that. But otherwise, like the video, subscribe, click the notification bell. And next week we will be back to our regular old weekly reading vlog. And I will talk to you then. Bye.